As she said, I'm Kevin. I run CityLink here for the City of Wadsworth. I had come out earlier to talk to everyone, and Lori asked to have us back. And so I thought I'd cover a few things. I'd like this to be more of a dialogue. So rather than a structured, like show you a PowerPoint presentation, I was hoping that if you have questions, you should feel free to ask those questions. I'll do the best that I can to answer them. If I cannot give you the answer today, I'll make it a point to get back to you. With that, what I put up on the screen here is the website. The website is www.wadsworthcitylink.com. So anybody can go there to see all the information. The website has all the information about the streaming TV, about the different internet packages that are available. There's some information about the fiber to the home construction process that's on there. You can check to see if it's available where you live. This map is color coded, and we try to update it on a regular basis. So what you're seeing here with the colors, just to kind of explain that to you, any area that's marked blue, fiber to the home is available in those areas that are marked blue. If it's orange, I'm going to call that orange, that area is under construction today, and varying times it will come up. I'll kind of get into a little bit of the details of why it takes so long, what some of the challenges are with that. We're building to 10,000 homes, and we're doing it with our existing team. We do have a construction group that's here to help, but we still have to touch every home. So if you can imagine, I've got 4 installers that have to go to 10,000 different homes. Technically, it's 6,000 customers, so 6,000 homes, but that's a lot of appointments. So it takes a while to get all of that done. The reason I wanted to show you this map is that it is something that changes all the time. And the areas on here that are blue are going to change significantly here shortly. Near the top of that map, where you see 2 polygons that are kind of cut in half, one's blue, one's orange, that's Blooming Acres and Tiburon. So that's an underground development. It's a totally different process for us to have to build. We have the test results that we have to verify for that bottom triangular polygon, and that area will go blue. The large area underneath it is about ready to go blue. The big yellow area above it is ready to go blue. It doesn't help you if you live somewhere down here, but so there's quite a bit that's happening. This large polygon down in here, some of the older section of town, this is also completed. These 2, actually there's 3 here. All of that needs to be tested by us. So what the process for us is, someone builds it for us. They want to charge us a lot of money. When they build it, they have to test the optical properties to make sure that the light gets from point A to point Z. They do that and they submit a result. We don't just accept the result, we test their test. So we go out and we actually verify that the test results that they gave us are good, at which point we pay them for the work that they did. Once we have those test results, they go into a system that are monitored, and that way down the road, if a technician comes out, let's say you're having an issue at your house, and you're saying that you're getting spotty internet service or your streaming TV is dropping in and out. First thing they'll do is look at the light level, and they'll have a historic report of what it was when it was built. And they'll know if that number looks any different. Sometimes that gives them an idea of where to start. So, process-wise, there are, with construction, there are basically 2 types of construction. Well, there's 3. There's a backbone that has to be built. Think of the backbone as the highway, the superhighway that connects everything. That highway is built in such a way that if there's a fiber cut somewhere, it will just make the traffic route the other direction. So a fiber cut on that superhighway does not take down everyone's internet. It would be, in technical terms, a 50 millisecond, what they call hit, and it would just, the light would go the other direction. So that doesn't mean there aren't localized outages, but we've set up the system with 20 plus cabinets in the field. those cabinets are each capable of supporting up to 576 subscribers. The largest outage we could ever have would be 576. And that would be a scenario where, I don't know, a motorist lost control of their vehicle and ran over our 6-foot-tall cabinet and took it off of the base. We kind of giggle and laugh about it, but I've seen it happen in the years I've worked in the business. So we are careful about the placement of those sites and trying to choose things that are a little bit off of the traffic, the path. We wouldn't want to put one right up against 94 and so forth. And then each of those cabinets is a self-contained ecosystem. Those cabinets are set up that they have their own heating and cooling in them. Obviously, they're connected to commercial power, but we also have rectifiers and batteries in those cabinets. And the reason for that is, and this is just my opinion, and because I'm the guy that sells internet, but it seems to me that people's priorities about their utilities have changed. Like, they would be less upset about having a power outage than losing their internet. And because nowadays, your phone, your iPad, your Samsung tablet, those devices they have their own battery, so if the power goes out, they'd still be connected. So we wanted to have things set up in a way that should there be a commercial power failure, and internet's important to you, so you put a battery backup on our device in your home, you would still have working internet even in a power outage. So you'd have connectivity to the world, the ability to call friends and, see what's going on in the world if it was some kind of an event like a tornado or something. So those cabinets are set up. Matter of fact, the cabinets are set up so that the batteries will run for about 8 hours. But if we really needed to, like if it was a tornado and there was going to be, 8 or 10 hours of work for the electric department to do before we were even allowed to get in there for safety reasons, we have the ability to bring generators in, connect them to the cabinet, keep that powered, and we can move those generators around. And again, just to try to keep the service up and running. So we tried to think about all those kind of things. The current cable system isn't really set up that way. When there's a commercial power failure, you lose your internet. But when that was built 27 years ago, the internet wasn't looked at quite the same way as it is today. So as those priorities have changed for people, we've tried to, consider those things in the process of what we built. Cable itself, by its nature, works on radio frequency. Radio frequency is really touchy. So satellite dishes, if you decide to rearrange a room and you disconnect the coax from the back of your TV and you just leave it open there because you're not going to use that TV anymore, you moved it to another room, that open coax is allowing noise back into the plant that affects all of your neighbors. Anyway, that's just the nature of the system. So fiber to the home is different than that. So you can't be affected by your neighbor's connection. Your connection is yours and yours alone. It's not shared with anyone. We are fortunate here in Wadsworth, and I think over the years, the leaders of this city have really done a great service for its residents. And I look at that like if it were my business, if this was Kevin's internet company, and I would want to do things the way I think they should be done, the things that Wadsworth has done here are exactly the things I would do. In the underground, a lot of companies direct bury. They just stick the wire in the ground. People hit it with their dog fences and other projects and so forth. Ours goes in a conduit. When electric opened up the ground to put in their electric in the underground areas, we went in with them and put 2-inch conduit in everywhere. So nobody does that. I've worked in the industry a long time and nobody does that. And so now Frontier has, reimagined itself. They, filed bankruptcy and delivered a lot of not so good service for a whole lot of years. And now they're a little smaller, and they're going to start offering fiber to the home again. So if you're in one of those areas, you know what a mess it is. There's orange pipes sticking out of the ground everywhere, and unfortunately they don't follow themselves immediately, and so you have this mess in your yard for a while. You have my word, we won't do that. When my team goes in to do work somewhere, we will put it back the way it was. We'll let you know that we're going to do it before we start. We're not just going to like have you come home and find we tore out your shrubs down by the curb or something. I think that those are just the little touches you get from a hometown provider that you don't get from some of the big guys. At any rate, I had mentioned that there were basically three parts of the network. The first part was the backbone, the superhighway that all the information travels on. And then, depending on where you live, if you have telephone poles, all of the cabling is up in the air, and the fiber optic cable, we generally attach right to the coaxial cable. We overlash it. We connect it to the other cables that are hanging in the air. And from there, we run a drop to your house, and that's how you get connected. In the aerial areas, a lot of the older parts of the city are aerial, which, by the way, about 55% of the city is aerial, about 45% is underground. Most of the newer developments are underground, and they pose a unique problem. So that's the third type. You've got aerial, and the third part is underground. If you live in an area where you don't have telephone poles and you have underground facilities, okay, the challenges in the areas where you live are that we already have cabling in those conduits, and in many cases, we can't just pull fiber optic cable in on top of the coaxial cable. We need to pull out the coaxial cable first. Well, if you're a customer, that's not going to work real well because it'd take 3-4 weeks to get the work done and you would be without service. So we had to come up with a way to connect people onto a different system so that you had working internet and TV, and then yank all the cable out of the ground, pull in all the new fiber optic cable, and then reconnect you. So it was 2 visits to your home, although really one visit was, like a regular installation, and the other one's just a short one to reconnect you to the new system. But so in the underground areas, like I mentioned, we're finishing up in Tiburon. Underground areas, we've done Weatherstone, which is, 270 homes, plus the little area just to the north there's Bluestone and those streets. We did those first. That was our first foray into the underground. And then we did Blooming Acres, which is a couple hundred homes. And then we're doing Tiburon, which is a little less than 300 homes. So by the time we're done up there, we will have done 1,000 homes of underground. Some of that we were able to do without pulling stuff out of the ground. We were actually able to pull the cable in. If you're familiar with Northwoods, which is in between Weatherstone and Tiburon, it's kind of sandwiched between State and High Street. That's an older development that has underground facilities, and we were able to pull in our fiber optic cable on top there. So I don't know if you remember the old service director, Chris Easton, former, not old. I don't want to make him sound old. Chris lived there, and so I jokingly always called that Easton Estates. But at any rate, those areas are all in the process of being done, and all of those areas will end up being blue on here. Some of them already are. The others will be here shortly. And again, it's just a lot of work to do, and it's unique for us because we already have 6,000 existing customers. I think it's important to understand, I'm not here to tell you you should use CityLink. But everyone, whether you use CityLink or not, benefits from it. Here's why. The leaders here in Wadsworth, almost 30 years ago, were looking at Time Warner at the time and going, they charge whatever they want. They do whatever they want. There's nobody to combat them or to compete with them. And the city leaders thought, what we should do is offer our own cable TV. And in so doing, created this, this enterprise. It's a department here at the city, but it's really like its own separate standing enterprise now that offers a competitive product. I think we offer a better product in many ways. But the advantage of it is, even if you're a Spectrum customer, you have the advantage of being in a competitive market, which means the price you pay on a monthly basis is lower just because there's somebody else here. If you live outside of where we serve, then you know that, because the prices you pay out in the township are considerably higher than what you pay in the city. And I'm not picking on Spectrum, all large communication companies do the same thing. Their model for business is all built on the same thing. And that model is basically built on offering a service and acquiring new customers. Their total focus is on acquiring new customers. Once you're a customer, they kind of forget about you, which is why you may have started with someone like that at some time. I tell you my personal experience. I live in North Canton, and I signed up with Spectrum a long time ago. I don't use them now. I use the internet, and I use us. But anyway, at the time, a triple play in the industry, a triple play is TV, phone, and internet. And that triple play was $118 when I started with them. Now, everybody's a little different. My wife and I kind of divide up who pays what. I pay the house payment and the cars, she pays utilities, so forth and so on. So I never saw the cable bill. I happened to see it sitting out on the counter one day and picked it up, and to my surprise, it wasn't $118 anymore. It was $238. And I about fell out of my chair. And I said to her, what, did we miss a payment or something? She goes, no, that's the regular monthly bill. I'm like, it's more than $100 higher than it was when I signed up for the service. Yeah, it's just been going up and going up. I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I called them up. I dropped some service. I tried to negotiate. I got it from 238 down to 180, and I gave up the phone. And a year later, it was back at 218. So that's why I think what value that the city brings you with CityLink is that competitive environment makes they're offering products at a lower price than they've ever offered them before. So are we. I started for the city in 2018. I've worked in communications a long time. But back in 2018, the price that we charge for internet is basically the same price that we charge today. The difference is that in 2018, you had 10, 20, and 30 meg products. So if you had a 10 meg product, you were paying $25. Today, that's a 50 meg product. On fiber, it's still 50, but it's 50 over 50, not 50 over 1. So again, for the dollar that you paid today, same as the dollar you paid in 2018, you get more value for your money. There aren't a lot of things, unfortunately, in life that have worked that way. Your groceries cost more, cost of living for just about everything has gone up, but internet is one of those things because it's a highly competitive, highly sought after service, and that competition is what has driven that price down. So most of the competitors' way of not having to lower prices was to offer faster speeds, whether you needed them or not. So, but again, 10, 20, and 30 meg in 2018. Today on the cable system, we offer speeds up to 600 meg. On the fiber optic system, we will offer speeds up to 5 gig. That's 5,000 megabytes. So a lot more than you have today. The big difference between cable and fiber is that cable, in order for the cable system to be up and working, it needs to be able to communicate with itself. All systems are set up that way. But the system is set up to be what they call asymmetrical. So you get a decent download. So when you want to go out to the internet and look up something or watch a movie or whatever you want to do on the internet, there's plenty of bandwidth on the upload, even on cable. The problem is the download. The upload is the problem. So upload is things that you send to the internet. So if you have security cameras, it's uploading that information to the cloud. If you back up pictures, like iCloud or anything that you use, those pictures you're backing up to the cloud. A lot of people back up records. If you have a business, QuickBooks, things like that are generally in the cloud. So you're sending a lot more information the other direction these days, and that's problematic for the cable system. So we were looking at that and going, while we didn't think that the bandwidth on the download was a problem, we were going to run into a problem on the upload. Every year at Christmas time, when people get their new gadgets, they get new security cameras, new Ring doorbells, those kind of things, and they connect those, we see a spike in bandwidth. People get new computers, new gaming systems, those kind of things. Many of you may have grandkids that use gaming systems at your house, so you need more internet for them than you do for you. And again, all those things, the demand on information has gotten to the point where fiber optic is the future. Fiber optic, by the way, itself, just that hair width fiber of glass, the capacity of that glass, optical capacity to carry information, is so much larger than what we're even offering today. When we talk in terms of, there's kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, and as you keep going, there's, after megabytes, you've got like petabytes, hexabytes. Anyway, those, the overall capacity of fiber is just crazy. So what will happen in the future, now that we build this system, 20 years from now, whoever my successor is, might replace the electronics, but the service delivery system, the fiber, will serve this community for the next 30 to 50 years probably. So it was a significant investment, about $10 million. But when you look at that over the almost 30 years that the other system has been in place, it's more than paid for itself. We did that, by the way, with enterprise funds, money out of the CityLink fund. We did not come to taxpayers and ask for money. It didn't cost you a cent. People who paid for service, we ran that business efficiently enough to put some money in the bank, and eventually we used that money to invest into our system. Anyway, that's enough of those details. So let's just talk about on the website itself. I see it kind of turned off there. It's going to make me log in, I think, here. Hang on a second. Should have brought my glasses. Okay, so on the website itself, there are, up at the top in this header, you see where it says fiber here. That's where I got to this map. If you wanted to see services, or you just click on this link, it goes back to home. And the services themselves are all available here. And so we have the internet packages themselves. I have a handout. I think Lori put them in the back. But that handout basically has information that I'm showing you here on the website. So if you go to the website, you can see that information. You don't need a flyer. If you want the information, it's there as a reference. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. So the packages, again, they start out at 50 meg. That's a $25 package. For most seniors, if you're not, you don't have grandchildren over that are gaming and stuff, it's probably fine. If you're a heavy streaming TV user, like maybe using more than one TV at a time, you might need the next package up. So you could start out at $25. That's pretty much below what people offer in the industry. The next package is $39. That $39 package in 2018 was 20 meg. Today that package is 250 meg. So it's 250 over 250. $59 is 500 over 500. 89 is 1,000 over 1,000, or what they call gig service. It's important to note that I think sometimes confuse speed and capacity. So when we're selling a product and we tell you it's 250 meg, 500 meg is not twice as fast. It's the same speed. It's twice the capacity. So if you use a lot of data, that's when that would be beneficial. Sometimes I think Americans think, well, I'll buy the best, right? Give me the gig. You might be able to save yourself some money there. You may not need that if you're not someone who's really using a lot of data. So at any rate, the packages are available online, easy to sign up for. All those packages have all the information about them. If you were an existing customer and you were paying $39 for your internet, and you had our Plume devices, those little hexagonal pods, anybody, show of hands, anybody have the Plume? Okay. Those Plume devices were part of a rental package. You know, you had a modem that you rented from us, and the router is technically the Plumes, was about $10 a month. When you go to fiber, we're including them in the price. So again, not only are we offering faster speeds, but it's going to be less money because you won't have to pay for the Plume devices. I didn't want customers to not spend the money on what's called a managed Wi-Fi system. I wanted to provide it for you so that you got the best experience in your home. What I can tell you after going on 20 years in the industry is that it really doesn't matter where the internet problem is. If you're experiencing what you see as poor service, whether it's something that's happening in your home that we're not responsible for, or something outside of your home that I am responsible for, either way, I'm the guy at fault. So having a managed Wi-Fi system in your domicile is probably the best thing that we can do. That basically manages all kinds of things. It constantly talks to your devices. It makes sure that everything stays connected. There's a way to see a report. You can see that on your phone. You have the ability, I will tell you, I've used this with kids. It's time for dinner and they're on playing some game, and I called for dinner and I want to eat and I don't miss too many meals. And they're not there. So I have the ability from my phone to turn off their internet. Guess what? They show up for dinner then. So, and you have that kind of control over the system. So we really like it. It provides security. It provides added value, and we want it to have that included in the price, no extra charge. So if you pay $39, you pay $39. That includes 2 pods. If you have a really big home and you need a 3rd or 4th pod, they're $5 a month to rent. Each one of those devices, depending on what speed internet you have, each one is about $75 on the low end, and on the high end, $170, depending on how fast your internet is. So we're providing those, that hardware, at least 2 of those in most of your homes at no charge. I think right now in our network we have about 6,000 of those, 6,500 of those. So I don't know, times $75, it's $500,000 worth of hardware. All right, so let's talk about TV for a minute. How many of you were cable TV subscribers? Quite a few. Okay. Cable TV, I grew up on cable TV. So I will tell you that I'm not going to bash cable TV, other than to say what you don't know behind the scenes from the industry perspective is there are basically 2 sides that are fighting the battle of how much your cable bill is going to cost. One is the National Association of Broadcasters. Those are the people that own all the stations, determine what content they're going to put out on the air, and tell us how much you're going to pay for the right to carry their channel. The law says that there are what we call must-carry channels. So in the Cleveland market, I can't decide I'm going to carry channel 8 and not carry channel 3, 5, and 19. I have to carry all of them. And what they call their sidecar channels, which they charge us extra money for, and they're not even high def, I have to pay for those channels as well. Generally speaking, what drives up the price of your cable TV is 2 things. One is the local channels, and the other is sports. You've seen some of the contracts that they're paying athletes, right? And now we're doing it in college, where they name, image, and likeness, right? And it's to the tune of millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that money comes from somewhere. It comes out of all of our pockets. As an example, and I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, I'm just going to use them because I think they're one of the most popular stations around. In 2018, the city paid 32 cents for each one of you to have channel 8. Anyone want to guess 7 years later, what you're paying was 32 cents. 7 years later, what do you think you're paying for Channel 8?
Probably $32.
$1.50. We're $8.85. So just think about that. You got 3, 5, and 19 charging a similar price. So you went from the four of them costing me, I don't know, $1.20, $1.50, to now the four of them costing about $32. Yeah, it's crazy. And there's no end in sight. You know, if you look at the nice lavish studios they have and all the people they got, they're paid by all of us, folks. So unfortunately, and the other side, of course, the one side is the National Association of Broadcasters, and the other are all the service providers. So service providers, you know, from the national broadcasters' perspective, we're always crying poor mouth. We're not making any money. But the truth of the matter is, in order for us to make money, we have to raise the price. Now, I think I mentioned this before, and if you follow what's going on in council, there was just a significant rate increase for cable TV. The last cable and internet increase that we had was in 2018, right when I got here. And then we really needed one at what it would have been the start of 2020, and there was that little thing that came along called COVID. And the service director at the time said, just don't want to do that to people. We'll just eat the difference. And then 21, it was still COVID. And then 22, there was, you know, other rate increase considerations, what was going on with wastewater. And so we put it off and put it off and put it off. Well, it got to the point where we're subsidizing your cable bill. In other words, if you had the enhanced package and you were paying $84, that package that you pay $84 cost me $113. So we just put through a rate increase, and just you can do the math on it. We're raising the price to $99. You're going to look at that and go, that's ridiculous. You raised my price $15. I'm still not covering my cost. However, with the rental boxes and so forth, we break even. We're not making any money. If you watch city council meetings, there are people who think we ought to sell the cable system. They don't really understand the whole P&L. It's one line of the P&L. There are other places that, you know, we make money and stay afloat. And again, we're not trying to make money on the backs of people. We're just trying not to be a burden. So at any rate, no end in sight. The sports channels are the same. One of the most expensive channels that we pay for is ESPN, about $11.35 a month. Now, what I would love to say, well, why can't we do everything a la carte? You know, I only watch about 20 channels maybe. I watch my locals, you know, depending on where the sports is. I'm a huge Cleveland Guardians fan, not so much a Browns fan anymore. And so, you know, with the Guardians on those networks, that's a separate deal. So that by the way, costs about $7 a month. And that's where all these places make their money, and that's how they have their payroll, and that's, you know, it's how they run their business. So I understand that it's important, but at some point in time, you got to scratch your head and go, okay, well, when does that stop? Especially at our age, when you get to a fixed income, well, you know, I'm not going to be making any more money. Cost of living is not really cost of living, and you know, and the costs continue to skyrocket. So it would be nice if you had the ability to a la carte say, I just want these 10 channels. They're the ones I watch. I don't want to pay for all those other ones that you make me take in that package. Maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. Personally, what I'm kind of holding out for is, you may or may not be aware that if you had an antenna, you get like an amplified antenna, and you have it up on your house, and depending on where you live, you know, topography-wise and trees and that kind of stuff, and you try to pick up the over-the-air channels in Cleveland, 3, 5, 8, 19, all, you know, 61, all the other local channels. Over at the shop, I can pick up 66 channels over the air. You know how much it costs if you get it over the air? Nothing. But because I put it on my cable plan and charge a monthly fee for it, that gives them the right to charge me for that, so that nothing that you can get over the air, in the case of Channel 8, is $8.85 now. That's what they call a retransmission fee, and we all pay that. So what I would love to have is for the technology to come along that if I have everything set up on an antenna for local and I change to channel 8 or 3, I don't mean to be picking on 8, and I change that the box knows, oh, channel 8 is on the antenna, switch the input to antenna so that when I push the button, it automatically flips. I don't have to fiddle around with the remote. When that technology exists, I'll be at the front of the line to say, you know what, folks? I'll pay for the box, the little piece of technology to put in your house, because it's going to eliminate $30-some from your cable bill, right? That would be a good thing. Technology doesn't exist. They're working on a few things today. I'm holding out hope for that. It would be really nice if that happened. So, streaming TV. Where did streaming TV come from? Streaming TV started out with the YouTubes of the world, Hulu, and basically offered an entertainment package. Of course, I think Netflix was probably among the first. And you could buy this content and watch whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted off of this app. So over time, what's happened is the cable TV customers have been eroded across the industry. People in the big companies like Comcast, Spectrum, which is Charter, who have about 25 to 26 million subscribers each, have lost about half of their cable TV customers over time. So they've added more internet customers. They're now doing cellular phones. That's how they offset their revenue piece. But in the end, the pool of available places to get programming from continues to expand, and that dilutes someone's ability to make money on that. Streaming TV offers us a couple of options. One, it's considerably less expensive. So, the way pricing was today, if you were paying that $84, I have two packages on streaming, one at $80, one at $90, pretty close to what you were paying on the $84 package. The $80 package does not have the Guardians and the Cavaliers. The $90 one does have the Guardians and the Cavaliers. If, let's just say for sake of argument, you are a baseball fan and don't so much like to watch basketball, you could, from April till October, pay for the $90 package and then just call up and switch to the $80 package and save yourself $10 a month. And it's simple. It's keystrokes for us to change it. You save $10 a month. The other nice thing is, and I don't know how many of you have ever tried it, but I went on vacation this summer. We went down to Myrtle Beach. My daughter loves to go to Myrtle Beach. And the Guardians were playing, and at the time, it was when they didn't have one of those 1 in 19 stretches. And I wanted to be able to watch the games. And so I could do that on my phone. I could take that anywhere I wanted and be able to see that. Most TVs now have a Bluetooth connection. So I could take the programming on my phone, share it with Bluetooth to the TV in our hotel, and watch the Guardians on TV. If you want to know how to do that sometime, let me know. I'll be glad to show you. But those things are that's a value to me. I'm happy to have that. I didn't have that with cable. We had a package. It was really cumbersome. It didn't work very well. The streaming TV on your phone works terrific. And again, the packages are easy to understand and considerably more affordable. So where we had these large rate increases for the others, we'll be able to offer the same programming and add some value for less money. And that was really the goal in doing that. I know that some of you saw, and I don't know, I might need someone's help here. Let me see if I can remember this here. Let's see if we can find this here. Okay, that sounded good. Yes, go ahead.
Because it is. You don't even have a 1-2.
Right.
So what's the
Well,
repeat the question?
yeah, so it sounded like the question was, in the old days, say the Browns used to be on CBS, Channel 9, and you went and watched it there on a regular basis, now 19, but, and you went there to watch those games, and they were always there. So a couple things have happened. In the world of sports, everybody sells off a game or two, a broadcast or two, to another provider. So now you've got Thursday night football games. Who carries the Thursday night football games? Amazon. So it's not on my TV. I got to go to an app and go to Amazon if I want to watch the football game on Thursday nights. The baseball season does that too. I go home one night, I go to turn on like, where are the Guardians? Oh, it's a YouTube game. Then I got to go, find YouTube, turn it on to watch that. So one of the things that's happened over time and really makes it confusing to all of us is that as they sell the broadcast right to these other providers, which they're paying money to the teams for, so they want to do that, it makes it harder and harder to find out where they are, and where to watch them. I know that gets really frustrating. One of the things I'm hoping to do with the website once we get done, I have the ability to put on the website, which I don't have up right now, a little scroll at the top. So I'm hopeful to start being a little more proactive with that. So in the case, we'll use the Guardians as an example. If the game tonight was going to be, if there was a game tonight and it was going to be on YouTube or whatever, to put it on the scroll. So at least if you went to the website, like, oh, that's why I can't find it. It's actually on YouTube tonight. So that's really frustrating, and I share that with you. Even Ohio State, my beloved Ohio State, has a game or two that aren't with the major networks now. So some of them are on ESPN, some of them are on the Big Ten network. Then it's the ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, or some other provider. It just. So the question was, do you have to have those apps? Okay. Yeah, do you have to pay extra? For a single game, generally, you don't technically have to pay extra. If you're not currently a subscriber with them, they'll have you sign up like for a free trial where they're hoping to keep you. I know it can be frustrating, but this is the opportunity. They're paying millions of dollars to carry a broadcast in hope of signing up new customers. So much of broadcasting is set up that way. It's not really for us anymore.
You have to go in and cancel after that?
Yeah, you would have to do that. So there was a game that was on Peacock this year. I'm like, what? Really? I have Channel 3, but I can't watch NBC there. I've got to go get their Peacock app? Yeah. Yes, did you have another question?
Yes. I just learned got to CityLink, and then all of a sudden, and I just thought, what is Peacock? So, next thing I know, I got a bill on my credit card for $117.
Wow.
And I didn't know that I signed up.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, what is Peacock?
Yeah.
I tried to get Peacock. And you don't, because apparently the Peacock was through my broker. So now I'm stuck with it for a year.
I think you should be able to cancel at any time.
I canceled, but they said you have until next September 26th.
Oh, you paid for the whole year. I don't know. Yeah. No, I understand, and it's very confusing. I have a daughter who's disabled, who has some learning disabilities. We'd like to give her some freedom herself, but these are the kind of things as parents that we worry about because it's not very clear on a lot of these sites. Is it free? How long is it free? If I fail to cancel, do you just rope me into something and send me a bill? Does it expire and I have to, say that I want to? Because to me, if I signed up for something that was a trial, they should have to come back to me and ask, do you want to continue? They don't. You're right, they don't. And I look at business and go, that's not the way I would want to do business. If I was running a business, I would never do that to a customer. All these companies do that now, and that's a frustration. I share that with you.
That's to help the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think that we have to be real careful with what you budget.
Yes.
That's scary for our
It is. I think that one of the advantages of having a service where you can get the majority of your channels and try not to stray from there is that if you do that, you don't run into the chance of paying extra for some other service. And I would just caution anyone against any circumstance where they want you to sign up for a service to see something that normally would be free to you, unless you're going to cancel it immediately afterwards. I've rarely done that. I'll try to find it another way. I'll go online and see if I can find it that way. But it's frustrating. Aren't we on? I'm sorry?
Aren't we online with this new way?
So technically, you're using the internet to get to the product that we offer, but the product is set up so that you get a finite number of channels depending on the package, and they're always there and they're always available to you. On the Roku device myself, I have mine set up with favorites, so I don't want to scroll through 50 music channels because I'm not going to ever listen to music. I'll tell you, when I put on the music channel? When we're sitting down at Christmas dinner or something and we're in another room and I turn it on and walk away from it to have, Christmas music on or something. But to me, that's 50 channels I don't need to scroll through, so I don't put them in my regular lineup. Yes?
Do you have, like on cable, you have like a guide you can look at all the different things for the whole day, what's going on each channel?
Yes.
Do you have the same thing in fiber?
Yeah, the question was, on the cable system, you had a guide, right? You could go look, scroll through the channels and say, well, here's what channel 3 has on at noon, here's what they have on at 5 o'clock, here's what they have on at 8 o'clock tonight. And one of the things that I wanted to try to find in a streaming product was something that kind of fit that format, because that's what I grew up with, much like yourself. So if you go to the guide here, there we go, sorry. When it loads, it works much like that. The channel that's kind of in that green color there is highlighted. And I can scroll through the day and see what's on, 3 o'clock NFL Live or whatever. So I can see that. And then generally speaking, wherever the red line is what time it is currently. And I can scroll through all the channels, I can see everything that's on, so forth and so on. So there's a lot of replays of football games. If all else fails and there's nothing on TV, I'll watch a football game again. So to me, this format is pretty close to what we had. The difference is I don't have any numbers, right? So if I want to just punch in channel 19 and I was there before, now I've got to scroll through channels to get to it. That's a little bit frustrating. I share that with you. But again, if you come to the streaming service, have the technician set up your favorites, you'll be scrolling through a whole lot less channels. And I only scroll through that set. Yes, ma'am.
How do you add to your favorites without creating a diverse list of favorites?
You'd have to go into the favorite system. You should be able to add to the favorite. And again, if you're having an issue with that, I can have a technician come out. It's probably best to have a technician come out to do that for you, because if I have someone in the office try to do that and they're not as familiar with it, it could be a little more problematic. Yes, but if you need a channel added, we can help you with that.
How many do you get in your favorites?
I don't know that there's a limit to it. I've never looked. If there's a limit, it's got to be more than 50, I would think. I probably have about 50 in there, in mine.
Okay, so this goes to $99, is that right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I say that because with a little chagrin. When we asked for a cable rate increase, there was not supposed to be any change to streaming TV. Somehow, they changed one streaming TV product from $90 to $99. It really shouldn't have happened. The fact that it was put into legislation, it may be irreversible now, but that was not the plan. I did not ask for a rate increase for the $90 package. I did ask for a rate increase where we were paying $113 and you were paying $84.
And I see SEC on here, I don't see Big Ten.
Big Ten is on there.
Who cares about SEC? Take it off.
Yeah.
Save a little money.
Well, they're very full of themselves, you know. I have a few friends from Michigan too who, you know, are still all happy about the last few years. I'm like, since 2000, we've like killed you. But anyway, yes, sir.
Two questions. I live right over the fence over there, and streaming hasn't come there yet. First question, can I just keep cable and forget about all this streaming stuff, or am I going to be forced to do this?
Okay, so the question was, he's on cable now. Fiber to the home hasn't gotten to him. Can he just keep cable TV? So first off, streaming TV is available even on the cable network because over internet. So if you decided it was more advantageous financially to be on streaming, you could do that on the cable system. As far as keeping the cable system, once fiber to the home is connected to your home, there will be no option to keep cable. Yeah.
And number two, second question, the Netflix, the Hulus, all this stuff,
Yeah.
you know, isn't on the paper. So that's going to be charged separately, I assume, if you want those services. Is that going to come through your billing like I get it now, or I got to track these individual companies down every month and about 150, 200 bucks worth of streaming services for one show you might want to see?
Right. So they are all their own profit centers, their own companies.
So I got to deal with them and I got to deal with you.
Right. I will tell you that there are some apps now that kind of track all your subscriptions, because you may not realize that you're paying out monthly. I'll give you an example. I bought a new car. It came with, I think, a 3-month subscription to SiriusXM. When it expired, I called them to cancel it, and then they were like, willing to make a deal, and I got it down to like $8 a month, $7 or $8. Okay, that seems reasonable. I bought it for the year. I don't know, a year later it comes by, I get the bill. I have it on 2 cars, so say it was $16 or $17, and I get a bill for like $30-some. I'm, what's the deal? Oh yeah, that expired. I'm like, cancel it. Well, we can give you that back, that price. Give me a credit for what you charged me for. But again, all these subscription-based services do the same thing. I was on Netflix when it was $7.99 and I was grandfathered in. You could have it on 3 devices. I had a computer that went bad. You couldn't turn it on anymore. I got a new computer, 4th device. No longer grandfathered in. It went to $9.99. Then I went to $14.99. Now it's $19.99. And now they want to sell me something with ads that's less money they can make even more money on. So the same thing's happening with all those streaming services that's happened with the regular cable thing. And so you kind of, in my view, you have to kind of pick and choose what you want, because you're right, it'll get out of hand.
The beauty of Wadsworth Utilities is that we get one bill with everything on there, and you don't have to track.
Right.
19 different things. That's going to kind of go away.
Well, technically,
Or at least your basic service here or whatever is still going to stay on
yep.
Wadsworth.
Whatever basic service you have from CityLink, if you have internet and TV with us, that'll still be all part of your regular utility bill. So that doesn't change. Yes, question back here?
Yeah, can you go through the process of checking if you have service, and is it like all or nothing when you're installed, you can get everything, and then then you can get nothing? And also, if you're not currently served, when you might anticipate you will be?
Sure. All right. So the first part of that question was, if you paraphrase that. If you sign up for a service, do you have to take everything, or can you, what pieces?
Until, say you're not installed yet.
Okay.
So is there anything available until you do the whole fiber thing in that area?
Yes, wherever you live now, if you live somewhere that was technically in our service area, cable may still be available to you. If you're somewhere now where we don't have fiber built and you want to sign up for TV and internet, the TV will be streaming. They won't put it on the cable plant anymore, but it'll work on the streaming.
And how do you find out all that information?
You can go right to the website. There's an area right above that map where you can put in your address. It'll pinpoint it and it'll tell you what's available where you are, and then it'll take you to the appropriate service. So if you put the push pin somewhere and it's in a cable area, it'll bring up the cable internet prices. Okay, we try to make that simple, but again, for me, it's always easier to talk to a human being. So you can also pick up the phone and call 330-335-2888, and you'll get a live human being who can walk you through it. So, okay, I see a bunch of questions. I'm going to go right in the middle here, up front first and then back further.
I have a question about the limited number of days you can save recorded programs.
Yes.
Why 7 days, and is there any way around that? I keep things a lot longer than 7 days to catch up on what I'm doing.
Yeah, so, that's a viewing habit change for a lot of people, right? I'm sorry, the question was, right now, a recorded program can only be saved for 7 days. She wanted to know if there's anything that can be done about that, because sometimes she can't get to it in 7 days. And the answer, unfortunately, is no, I can't extend it more than the 7 days. The difference now is from before, it records every channel for 7 days. Every channel. So I could go back and watch anything. If I got home late and missed the Ohio State game and want to go back, I can replay the game. One of the things my wife and I always like to do and don't normally get to sit down and do is we watch the evening news on ABC with David. And, if we get home and it's after 6:30, we won't turn it on in the middle of the broadcast. We'll wait till the end, and then we'll replay the whole thing and sit down together and watch the national news. So we've talked to them before about extending the period from 7 days, maybe just to 10 or 14 days. It's just a capacity. When you're recording hundreds of channels and everything all day, 24 hours for 7 days, it's a lot of information. Video signals and processing takes up a lot more space than, looking at an encyclopedia or whatever. Video files are much larger, and so the issue is really a storage problem. It's a technical issue.
So why does it automatically save everything versus me choosing what I want?
The system is set up so that what they call the caching system, the servers, back everything up for a week. And it can do that safely and not overrun its capacity. And so that's the window that was chosen. Yes.
Will the guide be available on any of these?
Okay, the question was, on the streaming service, is the guide available on any of them? Is that correct? Okay, the guide is a part of the basic package. So whether you have a Roku as your device that you're using, or if you use a Fire Stick, it will still pull up in the same form factor. And yes, so it's available on any package. It'll just have a slightly different channel lineup. So did you have a follow-up question, you said?
Do you have any idea when you'll be getting
I heard you ask, do you have any idea, but what apartments?
when will you get into the apartment?
Which apartments? White Oaks? So I tried contacting, what's her name? Susie. We've just missed connections. I'm going to set up a time to come over there and talk to residents. We are working on that area now. We're pulling in the fiber, changing out our pedestals. We've done most of our work, so it won't be that much longer, and we'll start connecting customers, Clark, Partridge, Deepwoods. Yeah. So, sir?
We've already got fiber optics out then you have to come into each building to run new, to replace the old cable?
So the question was, if you live in, a community where, it has underground facilities, do you have to come into each building? It depends. Some buildings were wired with coax. Okay, so in the buildings that were wired with coax, there's a technology that we use that will connect outside. We'll actually use the coax in the building. So we're not going to come in and tear out all the wiring and get into the ceilings, but it will still provide gigabit speeds over short distances. And so we have Positron is the company that makes the product, and we'll use that to connect anyone in those settings. 2,000 feet. Yeah. Yeah. And if it's longer than that, there's a different answer. Sir, I'll get you in a second. You had another question here?
Yes, please. One of your technicians told me that I'm going to have to buy fire sticks for each individual device or rent them from the city, from you. And I believe all of this means you got to have a smart TV to even
Okay.
approach this.
So the question is, do I have to have, you kind of know this, but do you have to have a Roku or Fire Stick, and do I need one for every TV? So the answer is any TV that you want to be able to see the service on, you'll need to have that device. They start about $20 or $30 depending on which one you buy, and you would need one for each TV. If you don't want to lay out the money right now, we do rent them for $5 a month. If it bridges a gap for you, we can do that. A smart TV. Smart TVs are smart, but not that smart. There are TVs that don't require the Fire Stick or the Roku. The problem with most of those TVs is the manufacturers who make that quote-unquote smart TV don't do a really good job of updating the apps on them. So if the firmware gets out of date, it gets kind of glitchy, where the providers on Roku and Amazon pretty much fire up any changes in firmware and push them right through the system if you're set up for automatic updates. So you always have the latest version on your device. Any TV that is a digital TV, so if you have a TV in your home that's not older than 2005, circa 2005, it will work. It doesn't need to be a smart, quote-unquote smart TV. Sir, in maroon back there?
My question is, if you have fiber coming into the house, you have coax inside, network only goes as fast as it's supposed to. So does that yield the coax cable, does that have to be updated? I mean, our house is brand new, so it's fairly fast.
Yeah. First off, my apologies for not wearing my glasses. You are absolutely correct. The speed is going to be controlled by whatever that end device is. So if you have something that's more outdated in the way of technology, your speed is going to be limited by that technology. In the wireless world, in your Wi-Fi in your home, if you have an old Blu-ray player, it might be on, like old wireless G or wireless N, which, we're now, we're on Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5. N would have been 4, G would have been 3. So yeah, if you still have some of those devices, and they work on different frequency ranges. A lot of the older ones are 2.4, and then it was 5, and the new ones are 6. So on the devices, and I mentioned, they go from $75 to $175. The $175 device will do the greatest distance, handle the most components, and offer what they call tri-band. So it has the 2.4, the 5, and the 6. So especially in settings like where you're talking like Sterling Oaks, where there's a lot of competition and a lot of quote-unquote noise that can affect the Wi-Fi, those higher-end pods will find a channel that someone else is not on. When I say a channel, just a frequency, so that you have an uninterrupted experience with Wi-Fi and your broadcast. It'll be really important in those settings. Yes, ma'am. So it can be done either way. If it's more convenient for you to drop it off, you can always drop off something at City Hall. We would be happy to pick them up when we set up your service. And generally, that's what we would do if we're coming out and setting up your service. We block a 2-hour appointment for every customer. About an hour of that is scheduled to be available to the customer for education. So to show you how to find things, how to get places. Now, an hour sounds like it might be a lot, but in the real world, it's not. And we do the best. I'm going to try to develop some things on the website that will kind of be a reference. So if you forget, you can go to the website and maybe come up with some kind of a laminated handout that you can put on, the coffee table that has the information for you. I haven't come up with that yet, but we could do that. So, but we will come out and do the education as a part of that. Typically, when we set up the new technology, there will be new devices, and we'll take out the old devices. Yes, sir.
Two questions. First question, when are you going to get into Bent Creek condo? The second question is the connections. Do you have a written procedure of what's going to occur to connect the new fiber to our existing system?
Okay. So the first question was in Bent Creek, when might we get to Bent Creek? And Bent Creek and is it Brentwood? Yeah. What a mess. Yeah. With all the construction there, we were kind of holding off till they got to a place, because they've caused some outages. They hit some stuff that they shouldn't have hit and have caused some outages. We already have what they call pull tape in the conduits in Bent Creek, which means whenever we're ready, we can pull the fiber in and start connecting the subscribers there. We try to get a lot of these things ready and hope to get to them before the winter, so we have the winter months to connect everybody. Because the challenge that we have is, with 6,000 existing customers, I may call you up and we're out of town this week. And then you come back and, Tuesday's not good for me. And then my next opening is next Monday, and Monday's not good for me. And so sometimes it's a prolonged effort to get to everyone. Eventually, though, and the question over here was, do I have to give up my cable system? The purpose of this is to not have to maintain 2 systems, to turn one of those systems down eventually, because we don't want to hire more people to maintain 2 systems. And once that's done, it will afford us the ability on fiber to go from right now where we are, I'm going to call it reactionary. We have reports come out every day, and those reports might say, for example, hey, there's a raised noise level in this node that's, over by where you live. And so we send out a technician to, do the research to find out what the problem is, and we fix the problem. There's so many of those, especially in the summertime with heat, expansion of facilities with the heat and so forth, that we run our tails off. With the fiber system, much more stable system. So we anticipate getting to the point where we can be proactive, where we maybe spend more time looking at hey, I was up here connecting a customer and the squirrels have chewed all of this sheath here. It's going to be a problem, and we go out and fix it before it becomes a problem. A lot of that we'll schedule as night work, where there will be an outage, but it'll be 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. We replace the bad piece. We'll put some kind of conduit over to keep the squirrels out, the bane of my existence, by the way. And no keeping them away. They'll chew through the conduit too. So always sharpen. They're taking apart my arborvitae trees in the back. It's sharpening their teeth. Did I answer both the questions?
The question is, do you have a written document that we can look at and know exactly what is going to happen in the connections in our units from the outside?
Yeah. So if Roger were here, he could answer the specifics because he would know how that's set up. But in your facilities, I believe there's an individual connection. I don't think it's by building. I think it's to each domicile. Yeah. So that is going to be done much the same as any residential home would be done. And what they'll do is they will schedule a time to come out. We, in advance of your appointment, will schedule what's called a survey. The survey will go out, we'll run the drop. To be able to connect that, we have to burn the fiber. where we fuse the fiber together with what comes into the house. The technician will then come out and take it from the box on the outside of your house into the house wherever you have your stuff and connect it, get all of your technology reconnected, and then educate you on the new process. So typically that's how it works. I don't have a handout right now for that. I can put one together if that would be beneficial.
Yeah, I'd like to have that.
Okay, I'll see what I can do about that. Other questions? Yes.
Your technician was out, he hooked us up, and he did a great job explaining, except when we got down to the bottom, and those little dots at the bottom of the screen, well, we forgot all what those were, so tell me what they are.
Are you talking like where there's like 5 dots across the screen there? Okay. Well, one of those dots, and I think it's the 3rd or 4th one in, is last channel. So I happen to be somebody, I can't stand to watch a commercial on TV. It drives me crazy. So I generally am watching 2 programs, and the minute they go to commercial on one, I hit the OK button on my Roku. I arrow over to the last channel, I hit OK, and I don't watch the commercial. And then it becomes a question of how aggravated my wife gets at me about trying to watch 2 programs, but so there's,
What's the first one?
let's take a look at them. Where did I? Yeah. Yeah, so let's, okay, so what we're talking about here, you're talking about these buttons down here, right?
That's the one.
Okay. So the 1, 2, 3 gives you the number pad. So you could potentially use that. If you want to record a program, is the second one. The third one is a replay function, which really would only work if you wanted to go back and watch something previous on that channel. Kind of like what I was talking about with the evening news with David Muir. This is the one I always use, the 4th one. That's the last channel. So I was on another channel. It tried to switch. There's my favorite team. That probably was mine. I can switch back. So if you are flipping between 2 programs, that's probably the easiest way to do that. I hardly ever use these other ones. I was closed captioning there. This is, takes you back to the extended programming guide, which is basically, there's other ways to get there. I don't typically use that. I would just hit this left button up here, which takes me back to here, and down one and hit guide. Same way to get there. Does the same thing.
Is there picture-in-picture?
It doesn't have picture-in-picture per se. Closed captioning. I forget what.
The days of channel surfing will be over.
Yeah, kind of, yes. So,
So there won't be an arrow where you can just go up and down all the channels.
well, I mean, you have a toggle on here where you can arrow up and down through the guide. So if you're on the guide, and I just do this, I can scroll either way. Well, that's why I wouldn't want to do that through 150 channels, so I set up my favorites. More like the 40 channel, history, discover, a science channel or 2. Another question back here. I'm purple first.
The guy came out and he talked so fast that I didn't think that.
Okay.
One of them that I really want to know is how do you set up favorites?
Okay. If you would do me a favor, see me right at the end of the meeting so I can get your name and contact information. I'll have somebody come out that won't talk quite so fast who will get it all set up for you. And then next to her, I know you had a question. Yeah, I know. It doesn't work very well for me either. I don't know if it's just I'm don't have very good dexterity or what, but it is problematic. I would like to see that change. I would love to be able to give you guys a remote that had numbers, because I would love to have them. It's operationally not set up that way right now. So if you want to like record a daily program of something, you can set it up. It'll be a little different way to go back and replay it, but you can know that everything was saved for a week. So yeah. So if I went to the guide and I went to whatever channel it was that I wanted to see, Fox Sports, and I wanted to go back to the baseball game, I could go back to the baseball game and then hit it and watch the game again. No, if I, whatever it was convenient for me. So, yeah, a lot of people are just a lot busier today. So kind of, my TV, my way, and if I happen to be a late night person and my wife can't stand to watch baseball and she wants to watch something else, and she goes to bed and I put on the ball game and rewatch it. So, there's a lot of different ways to consume that. With a different device for each TV, it'll still work the same way. Yes. Right. If you don't want to sit through that 4-hour football game, you don't have to. Send him to the den. He puts it up on his TV and watches it there. You watch whatever you want. Yes. That's one of the reasons you have the separate device for each TV. Sir?
I got all those 400 hours of shows, movies, events, things on my TiVo that you guys give me. Is there any way to save that stuff onto this thing somewhere?
There is not currently, and TiVo is a dedicated service. I'm not really sure what they're going to offer for streaming. Again, that would not be through us. I think they're a platform that's struggling with what to do with themselves because.
The TiVo came from you guys.
Right. Well, I know, but it's a service we pay for separately. You don't, you see a small charge on your bill. I pay a large bill every month with TiVo, predicated on how many I have. Trying to get the boxes is difficult. Trying to get them serviced is a challenge. It just, because there's so much programming available so many ways now, it hasn't been as good. But again, like yourself, when you're used to using it, it's really convenient because it's like the back of your hand. So it's always difficult in those circumstances.
Change is always hard.
Yep.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.